Hello everyone. Today's topic is terms conditions in Drupal. A little bit introduction about myself. I'm Mirjana Dobcheva. I work at Drupal as a team lead. For the past couple of years, I'm working on one of the biggest projects in Drupal in the privacy and consent team. And I could say that it has been quite a journey. Along the way, we have been working on several privacy features, starting from legal pages that we're going to discuss today. And a little bit about compliance also. About Drupal. Drupal is data, AI, and experience company. We are mostly located in Europe with headquarters in Milan. And our office is located in Veliko Trnovo, Bulgaria. Also, we are on booth number 1. So be welcome. So, the agenda for this session is the following. We'll talk about why do we need legal pages, what do we need to be compliant, and how to implement it in Drupal in the legal pages scope. Starting with the first one. So, legal pages are essential for several reasons, starting from legal compliance, protecting the business and ensuring transparency with users. They help us limit liability in case something goes wrong, because legal pages basically outline our responsibility, and this could prevent lawsuits. They can also ensure copyright protection, build trust. Legal pages, as you already know, for example, privacy policy shows the users how their personal data is collected, stored, and used. User clarity. Users need to know what they can expect from your website and what are the rules and restrictions that apply. And this will help you protect your website from legal claims. And small disclaimer here, you generally need to comply with the laws of both your own country and the country your users are from, especially when it comes to data privacy, consumer rights, or digital transactions, for example. And quick example, so that we could easily differentiate what types of legal pages do we need and when. Starting with the first one. So imagine that you have a blog website and I'm a website visitor who really enjoys reading your articles. So in this scenario, there's not a lot of interaction happening between me as a visitor and your website. I'm visiting different pages. You might want to keep a cookie on my machine, for example, and if you have a comment section, I might leave comments on your articles. So in order to be compliant, you need to have privacy policy describing how my personal data is handled and stored. You might have comments policy and cookie policy if you use cookies. And let's expand on that example. So you upgrade your blog to an online shop because you have lots of visitors. And in this scenario, there are so many rules that apply. Now you have user registration, keeping accounts and personal data, ordering processes, and many others, most probably. So in order to be legally compliant, you should have additionally terms and conditions, shipping, payment, return policy, and so on. Terms and conditions is a very special page because consent is required not only on registration. For significant changes, terms and policies, users need to reconsent to the new version, especially if there are changes related to how their personal data is handled. This is important for both compliance and legal protection. And on that, what do we need to be legally compliant? First, collect cookie consent. By collecting cookie consent, we are being transparent about how our website collects, handles user data. There are two types of cookies, essential and non-essential. For example, essential cookies are obviously essential for the website to function. They typically don't require any consent, but still need to be disclosed in a cookie policy. This could be session, What else? Shopping carts, preferences, and others. Non-essential cookies, on the other hand, are non-essential for the basic operation of the website. They do require consent, so users should have the possibility to accept or decline them. This could be tracking, advertising, or analytics, for example. Next, we need to ensure that users can easily access, correct, and delete their personal data. Minimize data collection. On that, we might track how much time people spend on our website, what information are they looking for, demographics information, and so on. We might have surveys, subscriptions. Basically, we should remember to collect only necessary personal data and anonymize data where possible. Next, implement data retention policies. We should have clear data retention rules. And last but not least, legal pages and collect user agreements. We will continue with the last 2 points and give an example solution in Drupal, as well as some food for thought when implementing such feature. How to implement it in Drupal? We could start with setting up a new module for the legal pages. We might define the usual routing, menu items, permissions. We should decide who should have access to these legal pages. Do we need a custom data protection officer role for this functionality? And so on. Next, we can create a custom content type legal page. Legal page should have, for example, title, body, type, which would be a taxonomy term, privacy policy, terms and conditions, etc. We should have a version number. Effective from date is optional. We'll discuss that in a bit. And also type of update. It could be major or minor. In our business case, we used version number and didn't have the effective from date field. We should use at least one of them because we need a unique identifier so that we could use it when we keep user consented versions, basically. Next, we can create a custom view for the legal pages. Again, optional. Custom content types and views, as you probably know, are very powerful tools in Drupal. Also highly customizable. For example, this view shows all the nodes of type legal page with their current version and other useful information. This is also helpful if there is a business requirement to have a clear separation between the regular content and the legal pages. Also, I could add here that it makes sense to have a restriction that we cannot create more than one legal page of the same type. Next, versioning. As we already said, for terms and conditions, we need a mechanism to define if our changes require a consent or not. For that, if we need a foolproof and reliable solution, we might, based on the type of the change, major or minor, we can automatically generate a new version number and keep it. We can do so by adding additional submit hook to the form, get the correct version, erase it, and of course save it. Also, keep in mind that if the website is multilingual, we need to make sure that there are no mismatches between versions on different languages. On the good side, having this approach, now the editor cannot enter invalid version numbers. And on the other hand, reverting back to old versions will be a little bit more tricky. So if we need a more flexible solution and basically trust the editor, we might leave the field to be filled by the editor, or maybe go with the other approach with the published and effective from dates as identifier instead of the version number. It really depends on your business requirements. Next, legal pages archive or audit trail. This is basically the published legal documents history. Starting with the revisions. Revisions are, I think, mandatory in most of the cases. But what we missed there was with revisions, we cannot tell which of these versions are actually published versions of the documents. So in our case, we used external consents API that require version and URL of the existing legal page as a payload, which means that we needed to have all versions, the old ones and the new ones, available publicly. Also, there is no need to revert to old versions or to publish or unpublish them. And one way to solve this is on every static publish process to check if we publish a new legal version, then we can create a copy in a separate archive directory, like this one, that is publicly available. And again, we can create a custom view for listing this archive. On that, I could say that we thought that this is the best and probably the cheapest, the fastest solution to implement. And technically, I think it is, but in reality, we have some issues because the client was used to using the Drupal revisions and needed time to switching to this custom view. So a possible optimization here is to combine the information here with the revisions. That would be, I think, the perfect scenario. And last but not least, let's talk about how to handle updates and user notifications. Starting with the first one. So if you have a monolith architecture, then it's clear that we'll ask that the database what is the latest version of our legal page and ask the user to reconsent if needed. If we have a decoupled architecture, we need a reliable way to expose this information on the front end. And it could be a Drupal API or a static file, for example, generated on the static publish process. And yeah, in our case, we have a decoupled architecture with React frontend and use external consent API services. Regardless of the approach, it is very important to make sure that our solution is scalable and can handle more traffic if needed. About the notifications, we can implement automatic emails or on-site notifications. For notifications, we can use the same consent services, and when the user login, we might check if we need to notify them about any updates. And last point is the possible issues. First one, receive the cached version of the legal page on the front end. So even though that legal pages are not very frequently updated, we need to make sure that we don't show any cached or old version. Consent API is down. This is a major issue that we actually hit on production because of the traffic. And in this case, we basically couldn't check if the users have consented to the latest terms and conditions. So we needed to restrict them from using the platform, and we automatically work them out. Yeah, next one. Editor wants to revert changes or on published legal documents. We cannot allow that because the legal documents, once published, should not be changed, as we might face legal issues. And last, not having regular backups of the legal documents. This is very important for the whole website, not only from a compliance perspective, but as a whole. So we should always be cautious and look for the edge cases. And that's it. Questions?
You can ask questions through the app as usual, or you can go to the mic and have a question there.
I wanted to ask, how do you handle when a user does not want to consent or agree to new terms and conditions when there is a new major version?
Yeah, on that, it really depends on the business needs, but we have a limited user. You have a limited user space where the user can either delete their account or again give their consent so that they are allowed to the whole functionality of the website. And yeah, that's a good question. From legal perspective, it's also important. So firstly, you should be able to delete their account. Also, they should be able to request access to their data that we have kept. And that's mainly it.
Regarding the API being down, how would you approach it for if the API exactly is down for a week, maybe, or a month? Something critical that happened, how would you approach this with the syncing between the legal pages and the API?
That's a tough question. I hope this is not a real case scenario because having an API down for so long is absolutely critical, I think. We did have this maybe for a minute or half an hour, but so for a week, it is not appropriate to allow the users to use our website if they haven't consented to, especially if the website is having some, let's say, complicated functionality. You are dealing with transactions, user data, etc. So yeah, the best case is that just you fix it as quick as you can.